So the way this video is going to go is that I'm going to go from the beginning to the very end of the song and go part by part. I have my screen recording going, and without further ado, let's get right into it. Okay, so you can see the Logic session in front of me. There's a decent amount of tracks. All the ones up here are actually drums from the studio that we recorded at. Amazing sounding drums. So the drums that you're going to be hearing, well, this whole song actually that you're going to be hearing, this was mixed on a Neve board at a studio in Nashville. So this is actually pre that mix because I don't have, I wouldn't be able to get the these individual stems from the board because it would take forever, and that's just not something that we did. So these are pre being mixed, but these are the tracks that while at the studio, these are the exact tracks that we mixed. So there was no new guitar tones or anything or effects added after this. So we have all these drums here. I'll play you a little bit of it, just the drums by itself, but we're really not going to be talking too much about drums because I really didn't do anything. So the drums for the final mix were pretty much all in the analog board, but I'll play it right now just so you guys can hear it by itself. So just amazingly recorded drums. This is just some light compression and EQ stuff happening. I'm really not doing much to the drums. What we're mainly going to be talking about is all this stuff that's happening. So I guess let's go part by part. I'm going to start with the beginning of the song, and then I'll pause and kind of go through what's happening with each track. Cool. So right there in the beginning, there's a lot going on. So I have, if I zoom in here, I have this main pad. I have this intro synth layered with a guitar. And then I have this vocal chop, this vocal stem that I chopped up. So let's start with this main pad. So if I solo this, you can see exactly what I'm using here. It's actually just retro synth with this plugin or this preset called Plectrum Keys, which I maybe overuse. It's a great preset. So I'll play it soloed. Now you'll notice there's some rhythmic effect happening that's actually coming from this plugin called Portal, which we'll get into right now. So if I take off any plugins except this main synth, it'll sound like this. So, I mean, that by itself sounds really cool in my opinion. I just love how this default preset sounds. So here is exactly what I did. So I have this plugin called Portal, which is made by Output, and it's a granular synthesizer. So whatever you put into it, it'll chop it up and make it all weird. And this preset that I'm using is called, it's in the rhythmic section, it's called Halftime Offset. And so if I turn that on, it's giving it this rhythm that's happening. But if you listen closely, the rhythm's actually speeding up and slowing down. And you can hear that happening. So yeah, so you can see once it hits right here, it starts speeding up. So what that is if I, how do I get out of this? Okay. I automated this section of the plugin. So when you use this plugin, you can move this around and it like changes specific values. And what I did was I just like automated it. So I literally held down my mouse and then as the song played, I like moved it to different places to hear it react differently. And this kind of just creates like a randomness in the synth that I think sounds really organic, and less like, oh, it's this and then this and then this and then this. It's like flowing into each state. Okay. After that Portal plugin, I have this EQ, which is just pretty much taking out low end. And then there were some like resonant frequencies that I really didn't like. They were like standing out to me when everything was playing. So I literally just like completely notched those out. And the way that I usually do that is first I'll boost a frequency and then I'll like sweep through and find ones that really pop out. And then I'll just kind of like bring them way down. So that's what I did with this one. I brought it way down. Cool. So the next thing that I have happening is this stack. You'll see that I do this a lot. I like to create stacks and then process both of them, process multiple tracks in this stack. So I have this intro synth and this guitar that are both being processed by this folder or stack called Plux. So if I turn off everything that's happening in the stack, and you're going to hear just this synth with no effect on it, it sounds like this. Kinda uninspiring, right? So what I did to this was I added an EQ and a bit crusher. And the EQ looks like this. So you can see I took out a ton of low end and took out a bunch of high end. And it's really just this mid-range that's happening. Yeah. And then when I add the bit crusher, you'll hear all this high end come. You hear that? So I have this Analog Labs. I use this plugin a lot. Analog Labs. It's great. It just has like a bunch of vintage synth style things. So I have this one going. And then I have another, so that's one track. The next track is actually a guitar where I'm plucking the guitar with the palm mute. So I'm palm muting and picking single notes. And that one sounds like this. And for that, I'm using Archetype Abasi. And I have all of these presets that I'm using for all these guitars included in a folder in that should come with the download of this video. So if you want to, you can get these exact same tones. So I'm using a lot of this blend knob here from the Abasi plugin, which is, I really like that blend knob. I think it's the only Neural plugin that has anything like this, and it's almost like a it's just like a ton of high end, like a processed DI kind of sound, right? Okay, so when I layer these two things together, it sounds like this. So it's like a mix between guitar and synth. And I try to think of it as a single instrument. Like they're filling out different frequencies. And then to me, when you hear it in the mix, it doesn't sound like two different things. It sounds like a single thing that's happening. And so what I did in the pluck stack. That's both of these. I have this EQ, which is really just taking out a bunch of low end, more low end. And then I have this reverb that I use all the freaking time. So this is the little plate from Sound Toys, and I have it pretty heavy. It's almost like 8 seconds. So, I mean, just tons of reverb. It sounds so good. You can also see I have the low cut pretty high, so this is taking out a lot of low end. And then once again, we got like my favorite plugin, Portal. So this one, let's hear what this is doing. So it's a bit more subtle. It's like a delay that's happening. So if I turn the mix all the way up on this, that's what that sounds like. It's like this weird like pulsing, there's EQ stuff happening. It's just really cool. And then my favorite part, we've got this vocal sample that I got from Splice, and I completely, if you look here, I like chopped it up a ton and did all these glitchy things. I just thought it sounded really cool. So if I play that by itself with no plugins, it sounds like this. And then what I did was I added this plugin called Little Altar Boy, and I brought down the pitch of it a full octave. I added a little bit of drive, and then I have it mixed pretty heavily, so a lot of this plugin is coming through. So if you hear it with it now, so you really hear it's like an octave down kind of gritty thing. And then because putting it an octave down added a bunch of new frequencies, I added an EQ and took out a bunch of low end. You'll notice I take out a lot of low end. So if I play all three of these things together, it sounds like this. Which I think sounds pretty sick, and I'm very happy with how that came out. So you'll notice I also have these short little audio pieces. Like there's one here, there's this happening here, and these are basically all just like reverse. Well, they're like swells, right? So, but this one's like a reverse cymbal, the screen one. This blue one is another sample that I got from Splice. So I'll play how this sample sounds. When you hear it by itself, it sounds kind of like lo-fi in maybe not the most pleasing way, but I feel like in the mix, I don't notice it. And if anything, I think it sounds kind of cool that it's a little lo-fi in the mix. And then up here, I actually just have some reverse cymbals that I made from Get Good Drums. So just super clean reverse cymbal. And then that leads us into this first section with more stuff happening. So if I play that. Cool. All right, so we've got a bunch of new layers happening here. So the first one I want to talk about, I have this bass happening, and I'm using Grove bass because I love Simon, I love Grove bass, and I just thought it fit the song really well. So what I have happening here, it's literally just the plugin, I think, on the clean setting. Yeah, so it's on the clean setting. I turned off the bright switch. That's kind of it. If you see in the MIDI, I didn't really do too much. Something that I think is kind of my secret formula here. Well, actually, that will come in this next section that we'll talk about. There's another bass that's happening. But in this section, it's just this clean bass from Simon. We have this main pad that continues. But I automated it so that when the full, all the tracks come in, this Portal plugin actually, the mix goes completely to dry. So none of this Portal is going through on this track anymore. So you'll hear it here. Yeah, so you hear Portal affecting the track, and then once it gets here, it's gonna go away. Yeah. So I've been getting much more into automation, and this is just one of those ways that it kind of manifested itself. The next layer, I have these chord bells. All right, there's some cool stuff happening here. So again, it's Analog Labs. It's the reverse box preset. I think I turned the effects down and maybe the reverse out all the way up, but that's kind of it. And then what I did is I just didn't want it to be, I wanted some movement to be happening. So the way that I did that is I added this Sound Toys plugin, which is like a trem, and I put it on it's the Fender Vibrolux preset, and it is synced to the tempo. Is it synced? It's not synced to the tempo of the song. It's following its own rate, which works out sometimes because it's like a different rate than the song is. There's like this back and forth kind of thing that's happening, where if it's the same rate as the song, it could maybe sound more like a side chain kind of thing, which I didn't want. So with the trem, it sounds like this. Pretty sick. And then once again, taking out more low end. So I'm taking out quite a bit of low end here. The next cool thing that's happening is I have these clean chords. Well, not that clean, but okay. There's a lot happening on this stack, so I'll show you exactly what I'm doing. So first, another thing that I do a lot is when I'm recording guitars that I know are going to be stereo double tracked, I'll put the DIs together in a folder, pan them left and right, and then on the main folder, add the Archetype plugin with a stereo input. And pretty much this lets me have two guitars hard pan left and right with a single guitar plugin, which saves me CPU, but it also makes it so that when I make an adjustment, it adjusts both sides. So this is, again, the Archetype Bossy plugin because I wanted that blend control. This is another one of the presets that's available in the download. So that's what it sounds like by itself. So clean DI-ish guitar. And then I added a compressor that's compressing it quite a bit, making it quite a bit louder too. I almost wanted this like artificial sound. And then I have another EQ taking out more low end. Okay, and then here's where I think this sounds really cool. I added a bit crusher to this, and it gives it like this super sizzly high end and like some overdrive in a really interesting way. And then the last part of this is I have a more reverb. So there's already reverb in the Archetype plugin, but I wanted more reverb, so I added this Sound Toys little plate, which is like a plate reverb that I use on a bunch of stuff. Pretty sick. So that's that whole clean tone. Now the next thing that's happening here is this. So this is one of these tracks that I then reversed and then chopped up and put in this way. And you can hear it's bit crushed, so it must have been a processed version of one of these two tracks. And then what I added was more compression. I added an EQ, took out more low end. And then I added this radiator plugin to kind of give it some more grit. So you can see I'm pushing the input all the way up, and then I'm turning down the output so it doesn't clip the channel. But also I have the treble turned all the way up and the bass turned all the way down. So definitely weird, but I think it works really well. And then I've got this little ambient piano that's happening. And that's a Labs felt cassette piano layered with this tons of reverb from this little plate plugin. I mean, we're almost at like 16 seconds of reverb. It's a lot for sure. Yeah, so let's keep going to this next section. So I have a new thing is happening with bass. I have the second Grove bass track that is overdriven. And what that is it's just the overdrive channel in this plugin. I turned up the drive a little bit, everything else is the same. The bright switch is off. Then it's layered with what I think is just a really cool sound. And that is the synth bass. Okay, what this is, it's kind of ridiculous. It's the ES2 plugin that I mean, you can screenshot this if you want and try to copy it. Here, I'll make it a little bigger. It's this setting with a Sound Toys effect rack on the blown out setting, a compressor, the LA2A from Universal Audio. I mean, you can really use any compressor, but this is the one that I used. An EQ, and then a ozone, which this is basically making, because this preset, the ES2 is a stereo bass synth, and I wanted it in mono. So what this plugin lets me do is take the width all the way down to minus 100%, and it pretty much makes a stereo track and makes it mono. So there's a lot happening here for sure. I'll show you what it sounds like without everything, and then I'll slowly start adding stuff one at a time. So this is by itself. Okay, and then the effect rack. So that's definitely adding the most of the sound. And then the compressor, EQ, and then the ozone. And then when I have those two things together, the Grove bass and the synth bass, sounds like this. Which I think sounds pretty sick. So the next thing that's happening, new thing that's happening here, is this lead guitar. So I have like this guitar that's not fully distorted, but it's got kind of a lead tone, so it sounds like this. Okay, so what is happening here is I'm using Archetype Mateus Asado, and I have this preset for you guys to download. Some compression, overdrive, AC30 style thing, taking out some low end here with a high pass filter. I have reverb going. I don't have delay going in this plugin. And the reason for that is this plugin is like they wanted it to be like a tape delay, and they made it react the same way that tape reacts to the speed moving. So when the tempo in this song changes, if I use this delay, the delay would shift in pitch, which I don't want. So I turned this off, and I added this plugin from Soundtoys called Echo Boy. And then here I have just like a tape setting, and this plugin does not do that. So when the tempo in this song changes, my delays don't change pitch, which is great. So the next thing that I have that is layered with the lead guitar is this lead synth. It's like a sample kind of thing. And it's stock in Logic. It's the Kodo sample, which sounds like this. I just wanted something super plucky and like with tons of attack. And I thought that this fit that really well. What I don't love about this is that it has a bunch of frequencies in there that I think don't work well. So I really had to like go in and carve out a bunch of stuff. You can see that in this EQ. So if you hear it with the EQ, then without the EQ, notes just ring out in a way that I didn't like. So this is kind of my solution to that. So if you hear the guitar and this double layer happening at the same time, it sounds like this. Yeah, so it just sounds, gives it a bit more attack, I guess. Okay, so this next section, we're going to get a little bit bigger. Okay. There's more guitar happening now. I have this drive guitar stack, which sounds like this. So just really big sounding, open sounding guitars. And then for this one, for the tones, I'm using Archetype Pliny. Compression, overdrive. You can see everything here is just at 12 o'clock. And then amp wise, I'm using the second amp with quite a bit of treble, Took out some bass. And then in EQ, I'm taking out more bass. And then I have this lead happening that is bigger than the previous lead. And I'll show you what's happening here. So I'm now using the second overdrive pedal in this plugin, which is a bit more gain. And then I adjusted a little bit here. I think I brought the volume up here to kind of break up the amp more. And if you hear that by itself. And you can hear I'm doing the same thing that I did in the in this lead, in that I have the Echo Boy providing the delay, not the Archetype plugin. And I have this double happening still. So yeah, what I'm thinking of this whole first section, kind of how I wrote it, it's based around this this dotted followed by triplet followed by dotted idea. So what's happening is that if you listen to this beginning synth, it's in 5, so 1 2 3 4 5 1 4 5 3 4 5 1 2 3 4 5 1 2 3 4 5. And then if you look at what's happening in the MIDI, so it's 4 dotted notes, da, 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 right? So it's da, 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 da. And then 6 triplets, quarter note triplets, so da, 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 followed by 4 more dotted, da, 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 da. So together it goes da 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 1 2 3 4 1 2 3 1 2 3 1 2 3 4 1 2 3 4 1 2 3 1 2 3 1 2 3 4 1 2 3 4. And that's kind of the motif for this whole A section, and then also this whole C section that happens at the end, which we will get to, and it's a little crazy. Okay. So, in this next section that we got here, we got this little vocal chop that comes back. Something I thought was kind of cool that I did, I have this guy. All that is it's a lead that I'm going to play in a moment that I put through Portal, and then I think I reversed it, and then I filtered it and put it here. And it just has this cool sound to it. And I got this little glitchy thing, which is just like a note that I repeated over and over. That leads us to here. This is the same lead tone as this first section over here. Cool. So now we have some leads and some harmonies happening. So far, most of the tracks are the same instrumentation and sounds, but here we have some harmonies. So if I solo these, so there's 3 harmonies happening. There's this first one, which is archetype Mateus Asado. And then there's these, that one's mono, so that one's going down the center. And then I have these stereo harmonies, left and right. And this is also archetype Mateus Asado, and I added this preset into the download folder. So all the leads together sound like this. Cool, and that gets us into this next section here. So we got this fast little guitar lick. So this next section is just like a really driving, I thought it sounded very driving, just cool guitar part. I really like how it sounds rhythmically. So if I solo the bass and these overdriven chords, it sounds like this. So you hear that bass just like really reinforces those chords. If I play the chords by itself, and this is the same tone as earlier in the song with the archetype Plenty. Let's see what else I've got going. So I've got this guitar lead happening, and then these two harmonies. Stereo harmony, and it sounds like this. Yeah, so the idea of this part was that I wanted this part in the beginning, but I wanted all the notes to be straightened out. So that led me to here. So you can see actually there's a tempo and time signature shift where it goes from 140 to I think 196. It's going from 5 to 7. Yeah. So let's continue with the song. I thought this section sounded really cool with how this bass patch sounds. So it goes, and that's doubling the lead and lead harmony. And then with the guitar rhythm chords. We also have that Kodo patch doubling everything here. Okay, and this is almost everything is still the same, except now there's two new synths happening, and I have a couple arpeggio synths. Actually, okay, there's one arpeggio synth, I think. Let's hear. Yeah, okay, so I have these chord bells that come back in, which we went over before, and then we have this really cool arpeggio synth that I will show you exactly what I'm doing, and you can see I affected it a ton. Okay, what the hell is happening here? So let me turn off all these plugins, and this is just the synth by itself. And that is, again, Logic stock synth, retro synth. It's an amazing synthesizer. And I'm using one of their presets called Bright Cycle, which was under Synth Leads. I'm using the arpeggiator function in Logic. So what this is in MIDI is it's just chords and then Logic turns it into like arpeggios. Okay, so the first thing that I'm doing to this is taking out low end, of course, because I'm always taking out low end. And then I have this plugin called, what's this called? Decapitator, which is another Soundtoys plugin, and this is adding a bunch of overdrive to this sound. I'm also taking out more low end here and taking out a little bit of high end, but I have it driven pretty hard. Okay. Next, I have the Universal Audio LA2A, which is just compressing it more, making it a little bit louder. Then to get like a really cool sound, I added Little Altar Boy, and it's pitched up an octave, adding more overdrive, but it's like 25%-ish in the mix, I think, or maybe like a third in the mix. And then the last step in this little secret sauce here, I've got this plugin called Pan Man, which is moving in the stereo space. It's moving the track left and right at a certain rate. So I have it going pretty slow, and I have the width pretty high. So it's going almost all the way to the right, almost all the way to the left. And that sounds like this. So you can hear it kind of moving across the stereo space from left to right. And the reason that I did that was when I was getting one of my songs mixed years ago, the audio engineer suggested that I do that with one of my arpeggiator synths because it was taking up too much space in the center, and so having it move left and right kind of left space in the middle for my lead guitar. And I just kind of loved that sound, so that is what exactly I did here. So when I play everything back, you can kind of hear that synth really adding a lot of forward momentum. It kind of like pokes in the background. All right. And then we're going to go back to 5. More of this vocal chop, which you can see here. I really went in with literally just like copying and pasting it and like chopping it up in a bunch of weird ways. I really liked how that specifically sounded, this part. It just sounds like this like papery kind of weird thing. I don't know. I think it's cool. All right. I added some automation here that is on this Plux. You can see it on this EQ. So I took a bunch of high end out and then I'm slowly adding it back in. I just thought it was a really cool effect. Kind of builds. Okay, and then this second to last section that is building into the last section, I added some new synths. So I have this first synth happening, which is an arpeggiator. So it has the Logic arpeggiator with this plugin. I love this plugin, the CZV from Arturia. It's a super sick sounding synth. Very like retro. So I have that happening. A note about this. I had to automate the arpeggio rate. So you can see that happening here. It's switching between 16th notes and triplets in the correct place so that the arpeggiator, so if you listen to the arpeggiator, it's it's shifting from straight to 16th notes, like 16th notes to triplets. And then at the same time, there's another automation move happening where I'm adding high end back into the mix. Okay, more synths. I have these chord bells. So those we talked about before. And then I have this other synth. Doubling the hits with the bass and the drums. So that sounds like... And what this is, it is, again, the Arturia CZV using this patch, Elecstring synth. I thought it sounded really cool. I usually just like go through a bunch of the different presets until I find a sound that really fits the part that I'm looking for, or is at least close enough to where I can modify it to get the exact sound that I want. All right, we're here at the ending of this song, at this part that I wrote that was definitely inspired by Tenet. You can literally see I called it Tenet synth because I just love how the soundtrack for that movie sounded. And I'll show you exactly what's going on here. So when I solo it by itself, so what I did was, first of all, with MIDI, I wrote out the 16th note, triplet, 16th note, or like the dotted, triplet, dotted idea just straight ahead across this whole region. Okay. And then I kind of just based on feel and like sound, I made certain MIDI notes twice as fast. So you hear if I mute this one, it just sounds like. But to get that really cool like Tenet sound, they had some notes that were like just twice as fast. So I doubled up on some notes. I kind of tested different variations of it to see which one I liked the most, and this is what I ended up on. All right, what this is it's the classic synth bass tone from this ES2 plugin, which is a stock Logic plugin. And then I have this Juno 6 chorus from Arturia. I have the decapitator, which is just adding some overdrive to the synth. And then I have Little Plate, which is adding a little bit of reverb and some kind of like breathy air to the synth. So if I turn off all of these, it sounds just like this. Then with the chorus, just kind of widens it quite a bit. And then the overdrive. And then Little Plate. Okay. Another part of this sound is that I'm automating like the cutoff of the synth to get that sound where it's like taking out high end and adding back high end. And you can see that here. So what I did was I have a MIDI controller with like a mod knob on it. And as I was listening to this, I was just kind of moving it where I thought sounded cool. So you can see all these moves were made by that controller with my hand. Okay, so we have this crazy synth happening. Another crazy thing that's happening is this ending guitar arpeggio thing. This I'm gonna try to explain what's happening here. So the way this this section and the beginning of the song, these sections work is that it's 4 dotted notes followed by 6 triplets, quarter note triplets, followed by 4 more dotted 8th notes. So it's this happening. So it's da 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 da. So da 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 da, which is the 4 notes. Da 2 3 4. 1 2 3 4. So it's a polyrhythm. Da 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 da. Okay, that's 4 notes. And then there's 6 notes happening of the quarter note triplets. Da 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 da. 1 2 3. 1 2 3. Okay, so that's 4 notes, 6 notes, and then 4 more of those dotted 8th notes. Da 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 da. So what that sounds like altogether is da 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 da. 1 2 3 4. 1 2 3 4 5 6. 1 2 3 4. For those who are counting along, that is a total of 14 notes. Here's the problem, is that this guitar picking pattern that I'm playing is in groups of 4 notes. So essentially what is happening is these groups of 4 are happening over and over, this pattern of 4. But then within that pattern of 4, where the dotted 8th notes and the triplets are happening, changes within the chord every time. So here's what that sounds like. Da 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 da. 1 2 3 4. 1 2 3 1 2 3 1 2 3 4. 1 2 3 4. 1 2 3 1 2 3 1 2 3 4. So it has like this pushing and pulling effect, but it's all like, you can put it to a grid, which I just thought that was super cool. So I have that happening with these 2 synths and this guitar, which I'm using Archetype of Bossy, and you can download this preset in the download pack if you purchased this production walkthrough. Okay, so there's also, if you can see, 2 EQs. There's one that's taking out low end and one that's taking out high end. The reason that I have them separated is that one of them I'm adding automation to, which now that I'm thinking about it, that's not a great reason for them to be separated, but they are for some reason. So that mixed with these synthesizers. And here are the synths that are happening. So this first one, which is this piano sound, is the felt cassette from Spitfire Audio Labs, which is free, and it sounds freaking amazing. I love all the Spitfire Audio stuff. And that's being doubled with another Labs, this classic synths quad, which I used a bunch over this song, or over all the songs that are happening. That plectrum synth's gonna come back in. here. And then we have when everything comes in. So we have these overdriven chords, which is, again, archetype plenty. Just compression, overdrive, and this preset is available in the download. Just some EQ taking out some low end, and that sounds like just really big open chords. And that's being doubled by the bass. Okay, and then this ending section, I had these synthesizers and the bass start following the pattern of the guitar and these synthesizers down here. So the bass by itself sounds like this. And this is the same preset that I went over earlier in the song. But now it's also being doubled by this, which is retro synth. It's that bright cycle preset that we talked about earlier. Taking out some low end, adding some more drive, and then compressing it and making it a bit louder. So that's now following this guitar and these two synths. So if I play all these three things together, it just sounds like huge, you know? And then you add these guitars, and you add the Tenet synth back, and then everything back. I was just really trying to create this epic conclusion to this song in a way that I felt was maybe a little bit unique and interesting. So, I mean, that's really the whole song. It was a kind of a beast to put together and produce to get all the right synth sounds. I think that's usually what takes me the longest, is really sitting down and finding all the right synth sounds, you know? Because it's easy to be like, okay, I'm gonna have these chords double this MIDI double this guitar part, but to really find the right sound that complements everything in the mix, I think can be a bit tricky, and it takes time, and just being able to constantly train your ears to find what complements everything the most. Yeah. So I hope that you got some useful information out of this, to kind of see my process with how I'm layering stuff. If you are interested, there are also tabs available for the song, and thank you again for the support. Yeah, I'll see you later.